Hey guys, and welcome to something that is new for Marketing in the Madness. So these episodes are coming to you in collaboration with MadFest. As part of that collaboration, I am going to be interviewing some incredible female leaders, female founders, and men across the industry who are leading the charge and leading the change in our industry that will enable women to reach their full potential and address the long-standing inequalities that still exist, not just in the marketing industry, but across every single industry. So if you're interested in joining me and helping make the world a fairer, more inclusive place, then keep listening because today's episode is going to be a cracker. So, Carol, welcome back. Well, not really welcome back, just we're still here. This part of the podcast is, I want to say, one of my favourite bits. I love talking about marketing, but I am so passionate, especially as, well, we're both mothers of daughters, about equaling the balance in the workplace. And sadly, we are built on hundreds, thousands of years of, men being, there being more males in the workplace. That just is, I think it was, 1900 before, not that long ago, before women in some countries could even get a job. So we are playing catch up, but there are some fantastic things happening across the industry. And I know you've spoken with me before about this exact subject. And recently, I know you mentioned to me about a McKinsey report that you read. So let's start there. Where are your thoughts this year when it comes to us helping equal this balance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I guess a great place to start was obviously this year I joined a number of sort of females networks, and there was this incredible stat, and it was part of the Wi-Fi login for the password, and it was like time travel, and I was like, oh, well, why time travel? And I was like, because we estimate that'll take 300 years for it to actually even out the gap between women and men in the workplace and the opportunities that men have and versus women, and also versus people of other diverse sort of neurodiversity in terms of all those kind of areas, but also, race, religion, everything, people's gender, all of that area. It's like there's so much of a gap between people, but also I think everyone's becoming more and more aware of it and becoming more, I guess, more aware of what's happening, but not necessarily understanding what to do. And I mean, a lot of my sort of areas of experience has been around kind of getting involved in those diversity, equity and inclusion programs, really kind of looking at how it relates to the brand, because obviously as a marketer, you come in, not just kind of empowering and enabling the people who we want to sell to, but also looking at how your staff are, how your staff are doing, how your business is formed, how how that brand kind of represents internally, and what you can kind of do just to kind of obviously for everyone's well-being, but also as the company grows, you need to kind of make sure you invest in people, they're set up in the best way to do their work, and everyone has opportunities. So with the report, I think there was a number of things. It's very much focused towards women, but it was saying that a lot of people talk about a glass ceiling in businesses and women reaching a certain level and they just can't get promoted. But they were saying actually the problem starts even lower down, like in terms of people coming in, the opportunities, people being hired, women being hired versus other kind of opportunities for men. And so it kind of says that you have to start building that capability all the way up, that there isn't necessarily a glass ceiling. Well, there is a glass ceiling, but there's problems all the way through. It doesn't kind of suddenly come in at a certain level. You've got to kind of invest in that as a business all the way up the kind of journey. They're also saying, women are leaving businesses and, they're not sort of sticking things out, and maybe women aren't kind of staying in businesses as long. They were saying actually most people who are leaving, they're going somewhere bigger and better. So a lot of companies are actually missing out because people are saying, well, if you're not going to invest in me, you're not going to make my opportunity, then women are sort of moving elsewhere. So there's kind of, once you start seeing that kind of culture, then you see a lot of a brain drain. So they were talking a lot about how how businesses can invest, and also they highlighted the worrying stats that we're not making that much progress. I think they were saying there's been a couple of % difference in terms of like women at C-level, women on boards, women in very senior position and management levels. So and that was the same, and it was even worse when it was like women of color and women who kind of identified different genders and things, it was kind of, increasingly decreased down. So, when you think there's 50% of the world are women, and, there's what, sort of 10 or 20% of people in C-levels running companies, making decisions on how countries are run, and, also across the internet and everything that's built in that way, it's kind of, you're almost at a negative to start with. So it was really highlighting the need for change, but also the need for kind of everyone across the business to be bought in, to invest in it, that kind of creation of allyship and opportunities in the business. So it was a really interesting report, and I really enjoyed reading it. So yeah.
We'll make sure we pop a link. Actually, if you can pop me the link to the report, we'll pop it in the show notes. But you referenced something that comes up again and again when I'm asking people about how we can start to really have an impact here, and that's allyship. What do you think individuals and or businesses can do to encourage that support and allyship from men?
Yeah, so I think there's loads of research when you look into, across the internet, and also, across blogs and companies, sort of saying everything from, the way you write your recruitment things, your job adverts. You remember the way you write all of those, how you attract people in, the way you talk as a brand, how you describe yourself, the way the language in the company happens. Like, there's so many small things that you need to kind of really look at and tweak, especially as you start to be a growing company. There's lots of opportunities around that, enabling things like flexible work, giving opportunities to people to be able to do things, giving opportunities for career breaks, making sure that you can you really look at all the things that make a really happy, healthy, diverse workforce. So, obviously businesses invest in that. In terms of allyship, I think it's like understanding both sides of the story. So one thing that really, made me think, I've always been, very vocal in terms of women's opportunities. I obviously want my daughter to come into a world where she doesn't experience the same things that I have throughout my career, and the same challenges that I think women have had of my age. But there's also that element of actually thinking there's so many challenges for men. I think the suicide rate for men, because they don't have the opportunity to talk, and they're not actually because of so many reasons talking about things or sharing things or being a part of things. And it's actually understanding that it's not just a women bashing kind of like we have to get this and we deserve this and we're being held back by men. It's actually thinking on both sides of the scale, what opportunities are there for men, how are they feeling, how did they start to get brought into it, what stories do they need to tell, and bringing everyone together. So I know I talked a bit about turning the chair, but I think one thing that I really realized, that it wasn't really an us versus them situation. It was like, how do we all together make sure that we're enabling things, that we're bringing around different ideas. We know for us, we had obviously in marketing, it's often quite a diverse sort of area of the business, but some other areas like sort of necessarily engineering teams sometimes aren't quite as diverse. So we've been doing a lot of work with She Can Code and all of the podcasts. We're very fortunate to have a female CTO, which is incredible in the business. And obviously I think we're almost more women on our kind of C-level in Exclaimer actually than anything else. But it's actually thinking how do we start to challenge that? Because if you do have everyone that looks the same, who comes from the same background, from the same town, like how do you have those incredible ideas and really challenge yourselves and bring different things to the table? So you do have to invest in that kind of hiring plan, looking at how you do things in the most fair possible way to give opportunity to people that are incredibly brilliant, but also look at how do we bring different ideas and how do we kind of address all of those elements as well.
Yeah, inclusion is absolutely key to this, and for the change to be adopted, it's got to be about everyone.
Yeah.
You referenced something there, and I'm going to pick it out, that you said you don't want your daughter to face the challenges that you faced in your career. Can you, I'm going to ask the difficult questions now. Can you pick out any times in your career where you feel, that you've been treated unfairly, or there have been specific challenges or something that's happened to you that you wouldn't want to happen again?
No, I think, I'll always just speak general, but I think, references to appearances, references to kind of clothes, things you should or shouldn't be doing. I think that was obviously very much less rife now, but I think it was when I first came into the business, the expectations of makeup and things you should and shouldn't be doing, and, skirt lengths and all those kind of comments was appalling and very frequent. I remember being told, someone said, it was definitely you can tell that you're married because your ass is getting wider. Definite quote from a point of time in my career. And I was like, yep, well, that's good, thanks. But, you know, that kind of commentary and all that, I think really has completely, you know, gone across businesses. Like it's really not there, or certainly not in the experience that I've had recently. But, you know, it was very much so. We have come an incredibly long way, which I think is, you know, fascinating. But I think, you know, it's kind of taking it to that next level of making sure that we are really, really inclusive. We are really fair. We challenge ourselves kind of every day to tackle that. But I think, you know, I've definitely seen when I've been looking at promotions across the board, I genuinely feel that, you know, in the past I've had to argue more strongly for a woman's promotion than I have necessarily for a man's promotion. I remember going into, you know, my first board meeting and someone saying to me, just make sure you talk really early because men become attuned to only hearing men's voices. So they don't pay attention to you. Make sure you talk really, really quickly and get your voice heard so that people, you know, because it's a different sound and a different pitch and things. And that was a tip that I've always kind of taken with me just in case. Like, I don't have any stats to back it up, but it was something that stuck in my mind, you know, when I started kind of moving up myself. And I think, yeah, that's sort of been a lot of the main things. When I came back after maternity, I had a few challenges coming back into the business and being able to kind of come back with the same opportunities. And, you know, obviously there is a balance of it's got to be based on, you know, what works for the company, what works for you, but you should be able to kind of come back and have that opportunity as well. So I think, you know, there's just a lot of work across companies to make sure that we're really, really mindful of everything. So, yeah, I think, yeah, for us, definitely it's a big thing that I know we're really working hard on at Exclaimer to make sure that we have those policies in place, that we have the opportunities for everyone, that we're doing a big exercise of looking at, you know, is everyone paid fairly, which is really, really important to us to make sure that people are being paid across the board. And obviously there's always bands and brackets and where you live and all of that side of things, but making sure that everyone is actually paid fairly. And, you know, that element of if you stay in a company, you don't actually necessarily get paid as fairly. So you know, a lot of people do jump to boost their salary, which, you know, you shouldn't necessarily have to do. And it's kind of trying to do your best for people to make sure that you can kind of do that. So we've been doing a big exercise around that and looking at how we can, you know, do our best to kind of make sure that everyone's on the same banding and the same areas, and then also give people opportunities for progression. So I've been really keen on, you know, we haven't built it as well as I'd like yet, but looking at what's that career framework and what's the soft skills and what's the hard skills and how do we make sure that there's training available for everyone. We've all got the same budgets. You know, there's opportunity for everyone to learn about different things, do different, you know, activities and really understand actually what do I need to do to get to the next level and how do I invest in myself and how do I invest in the company and what do I need to deliver. So I think just making that really clear is a great opportunity that we've been really trying to make sure we invest in.
I literally love Exclaimer. You just do everything.
I think we are trying to do an awful lot. So as I said, sometimes we do need to kind of sit back and go like, can we do all of this and how do we make the biggest impact and what's the best thing for our people? And I think sometimes we are trying to do so too many things, but you know, I think everyone really, really wants to do the best thing and do everything they could do in the best way, which is amazing. Like it's really inspiring to be a part of that. But we do sometimes have to sit back and probably a bit more than we do and say, actually, what can we do that would have the biggest impact? And that's always the hardest thing. It's like, what do you don't do? So
yeah, where do we focus our attention?
Yeah,
you picked up on some really interesting things there. First of all, going right back to, you know, just the things that used to get said to you that would, you know, for me, like the saying, you know, like your skirt's too short, or I don't know. I mean, just the oddest comments that you would get in meetings, or even I had when I was younger, like in my 20s. So, send Katie out. You know, they'll fancy her. So if we send Katie to the meeting, they're much more likely to sign because most of the time, you know, and I was working in sales and marketing, we were selling to men. So it was like, we'll dish Katie out because she's young and blonde, and that will, and honestly, the pressure, but also the like to be thought of as, okay, you're not intelligent. People are only buying us because I look nice. Like, I'm not saying that I'm the most beautiful person in the world, but there was so much more of that about if you were a young. So I do think there has been some huge. You know, that, I mean, I hope that just doesn't happen anymore, but it was rife when we were probably in our 20s.
Like 10, 20 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Obviously no longer.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if I heard from anyone. Carol, you have been an awesome guest. Guys, if you're dialing in and listening to this episode, Carol and I also recorded an awesome episode around the fantastic things Exclaimer are doing, kind of changing the face of B2B marketing. They are really a company to look up to. And of course, you can learn a little bit about their email marketing technologies and the email signatures that they deploy as well. So, Carol, it just leaves me to say a huge thank you. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed today, and excited to continue to watch your journey and also Exclaimers.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was amazing to come.